part 3 tutorial on how to make a Keyblade on Blender. Now, what I didn't do last video or the first video was actually save the object as. So very important, if you don't want to lose your work, make sure to save your object regularly just by going to File, Save As, and then giving it a name, etc. I've already given it a name called Neo Kingdom Key. I think that's the name of the Keyblade. Anyway, remember to save regularly, and you can save by simply hitting Control S like with most programs on Windows, and it'll ask you to save over what file. Just click on the file you want to save it over, and it will automatically write over the old file. Okay. Alright, so now we said we were going to make we said we were going to try and do this part, this shoulder part here. Alright, so let's get cracking into it. So if you've watched my tutorial for how to make this part, basically the hilt part, it should be basically very similar. So make sure we're in object mode, not in edit mode. Click as close as possible to the Z-axis. Make sure it's smack bang in the middle. Create plane. Toggle to edit mode. Delete the object, and then start plugging in vertices. It doesn't matter what you do down here because it's going to be covered by the hilt anyway. And if you find the hilt's getting in your way, you can just basically you can silence it, or not silence it, but you can basically hide it. So in our cases, we've covered everything except for the plane we're working on. Alright, so click here, zero it out like I taught you on the last video. Turn this off because you are annoying, and then basically start modeling. I think the important thing about making objects is that not to be too overwhelmed about like, oh my goodness, it has so many parts. Try to break it down in your head. Like for example, when we were making this, I sort of broke it down in my head that we're going to make this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then we're going to make the blade, but we're not going to make the blade as one whole thing. We're going to make the blade first, and then we're going to make the teeth later. So it's important to break things down and not complicate things, especially when you're trying to make really complex models. Like I'll just show you. Oh, let me save this first. Save. Let's have a look. If you're trying to make things like a Monado, so I think it's from the weapon is wielded by Shulk from, is it the Xenosaga series? I think so. So as you can see, this is the Monado. It took me a while to make. It contains elements from his Monado and from the godly version of his Monado. I don't know. I haven't played Xenosaga yet, so this is going by images I found on Google Images. But anyway, as you can see, that it's very important. The point I want to make is that it's very important to break things down to parts. Can you see that that these are individual parts, rather than trying to attempt to make whole things in one chunk? Otherwise, you'll find that you get overwhelmed very quickly. Alright, let's go back to our Kingdom Key. Alright then. So just go back to plugging in vertices. It doesn't matter what happens here because it's going to be covered by this gold plate here anyway. So alrighty, zero it out. Alright, so before what we did is we actually reflected it before making the polygons. This time we're going to try and make the polygons first before reflecting it, okay? I mean, and you'll see that the end result is the same anyway. Here we go. So everything's in triangles. Alright, everything's in triangles. Alright, so after everything's done, and then we will... what will we do? We will Control A, Shift D to duplicate, mesh, mirror, and we're going to flip it on the x-axis. But we need to move it here, so we're going to change the negative to a positive on the X setting. Done. Hit A to select everything, and then remove doubles. And it says remove two vertices, which are probably these two. And that's good. That means it managed to remove everything. Because sometimes what you'll find is they missed it, and if they miss it, then you have to go back and basically join it together by going to Alt M, like I taught you on the previous video. Alright, so we have roughly what looks like what would be part of the Alright, so as you can see, it's all flat for now. You can add the faces in if you want to do it now, or you can do it later. Doesn't matter. I'll do it now, just to show you all. So what do we want to do with this part? Let's go to wireframe mode. We can either make it 3D by making this part come upwards, or we can just extrude it like we did for the handle. I think what I'll do is I'll extrude it like the handle for now, just to keep things simple. You can mess things and make things more complicated as you get better with Blender. So let's do just that. Turn everything else on so you have a reference of how far you want to go. So Alt, right click, and you see that it doesn't take everything into account, so you have to do it twice later on, but that's okay. Hit 3, extrude Y, 0, go back to 1 again, hit, yeah, why is it doing that? Oh well. Extrude Y, 0, there. Now you have to be very careful about extruding this part, because it already contains parts of the other shape that has been extruded, so you want to turn them off first. And then extrude it. I mean, a lot of this is trial and error. You have to just play around with it, and then you get it. So if we go into solid mode now, whoops, solid mode, you can see that there's a gaping hole there. 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 How do we close these gaping holes? Very simple. You gotta click the 4 vertices that surround the gaping hole, and hit F, and it will fill it in for you like cement. So let's just do that. Hit Z if you can't see to go into wireframe mode, and you can do it like that as well. Okay, 2, 3, 4, hit F. 1, 2, 3, 4, hit F. Okay, now let's see what we got. I go to Z to go in solid mode, and then hit tab to exit object mode. And now we have, yeah, I mean it looks like that because of the lighting, but if you hit and hold the middle wheel of the mouse and basically have a look around, you'll see that it is indeed a 3D object. Okay. Now that's one way of doing that. That's the simple way of doing things. You can get complex, and that's probably what I'm going to do now. We're going to get complex, and we're going to try and make it the 3D object look a bit different. So instead of just looking all blocky like that, we can actually you know, make some parts thinner, some parts thicker, etc. So I'll delete this for now. Go to edit mode, select everything, vertices delete. Okay, and we're gonna start again, and this time we're going to try and see if we can make this a bit more exciting, like a bit more interesting, the shape. Turn you all off. Okay. I'm gonna start narrating things less and less, unless I really need to. So yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that I wanted to say I already said on my previous videos. If there's something you don't understand, feel free to ask me in the comments, and I'll try and answer you. So zero this out. Good. Okay. So what are we going to do now? Let me think. I know. Why don't we make these pop out? These parts. And then we can also make this stand out a bit. let's give that a go, shall we? Okay. So we'll select the parts that we want to lift. So I'm going to lift I'm going to lift these parts. And these two vertices. Go to side view, click down here, and then we can lift them up. So that's what it might look like afterwards. I mean, even without faces, you can probably have a rough idea of what the object might look like afterwards, because we haven't added any polygons in yet. So I'm quite happy with how this might look. Yeah. Let's give it a go. I mean, if it turns out bad, and you can always delete and try again. That's the most important thing, is that not to give up, just to trial and error and do and see what happens. All right, let's try that. All right, so this is what it might look like afterwards once it's been finished. All right, so let's try it. So once you've lifted the edges or the vertices that you wanted to, you can basically go in and fill in the polygons like we did in our first few videos. Go away, you are annoying. Okay. Everything's in triangles? Check. Okay. Yeah, looks okay so far. Shift D, and then mesh mirror X. Change this to positive. Okay. And then A, W, move doubles. 4 vertices. Okay, so where are they? 1, 2, and I think somewhere around here may have been another 2. But anyway, they're probably gone now, so that's the most important part. A, to select everything. F, and then you can exit out of edit mode to see what it might look like. And it doesn't look too bad so far. I think it doesn't look too bad. Don't know about you. Okay, turn all the other objects on to see what it looks like. Are you happy? I am happy. Okay, I'm happy with what I see. I mean, obviously, if you're one of those people that really wants to make things really, really detailed and smoothen out all these other parts, you can obviously add in more vertices when you're making the initial wireframe. I mean, once you texture it, everything looks the same anyway, so I don't really bother anymore. Alright, so turn everything back off, and let's make this into an extruded object. So go back into edit mode, and then extrude it like you did earlier. So lift everything up to the front. E, Y, let's just leave that there for now. E, Y, E, Y, oops, I forgot to remove these two. E, Y, for some reason the screencasting turned itself off, so I'm turning it back on only. E, Y, and then we've got to fill in the holes like we did before. I mean, 3D modeling takes a lot of time if you're talking about it, but if you do it in silence, usually it's quite quick. Fill this hole here, fill this hole here, and this hole here. Where's the other one? There it is. Now you may be wondering, everything's all at different levels. How do we make it flat? You know, like if we look at it from side view, can you see it's all at weird angles and weird levels? How do we make it all flat? Very simple. First you got to change to wireframe mode, and then hit B, and then you got to select all the vertices. After you've done that, you want to scale it scale it in the y-axis. So hit S to scale. You can make it bigger, smaller. But if you hit Y, it only scales it in the y-axis. And you can flatten everything out by doing that. So just rinse and repeat until you get a single line. Single line. Okay, once we've done that, scroll up and send it to 0. Send the Y coordinate to 0, I should say. Toggle out of object mode, go in solid mode and see what it looks like. Not too shabby, huh? Not too shabby. Okay. Turn everything else on to have a look at what it looks like. And that's what it may look like so far. Okay, it may look like it's not the final object yet. I'm starting to think that this part, the hilt part, is too thick. But anyway, we'll deal with that later. Okay. Thank you for watching the third part of the tutorial, which was making this shoulder part thingy. Next tutorial we'll be making this gold plate part. Alright, and I think it's really much the same. If you've gotten the hang of it, you're more than welcome to try and attempt making it yourself. I mean, there's not really a lot of new skills I'll be introducing apart from just sometimes learning to rotate objects on a different plane, but apparently that's pretty much the same. And I mean, there are a lot of good tutorials out there on YouTube. Some of the people out there explain it and do a much better job of doing it than I am doing at the moment. And yeah, I'll see you at the next tutorial then. So give it a go and we'll see how things go.